Welcome to Tech Talks. Today we're going to do a beginner session for Google Classroom. So if you are not familiar at all with Google Classroom, you would get there by going to your apps on your Google account, and you should see Classroom as a little green blackboard there labeled as Classroom. Once you click on that, you will get to a screen that looks similar to what I have here, except yours would be empty. I have lots of classes listed, so you would just see a blank screen. This is not available on just education accounts anymore. You can actually access Google Classroom on any Google account, even your personal account. So if you homeschool or you have even a book reading group or any sort of group that you want to share things with, you can do that through Google Classroom. It doesn't have to be affiliated with a school. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a class, and I'm going to show you how to do that. You hit the plus button here. It's very easy, and you just hit create class. When you do that, it's going to ask for a class name, a section, and a subject. I would highly recommend that you set up a separate class for each section of a course that you teach. You can see on my screen behind here that I have the same course repeatedly, and I'll show you that in just a second, but I have put each period in a separate Google Classroom, and that's just going to make your life a whole lot easier. So you name it whatever you want to name it. The only thing that's required is the name, but underneath that you can put the section and the subject. So once you do that, you will have a class that looks similar to this. This is my demo class I've already created, and I have some random assignments on here that we'll talk about in later sessions. So what you do is that you see at the top you have 3 tabs: Stream, Classwork, and People. Today we're mainly focusing on just how to set up a class and add people to it, and on later videos we'll cover more in-depth topics like posting assignments, classwork, and that sort of thing. So what you do to have people join your classes, you just go to the People tab, and you should see yourself as a teacher here, and you can add other teachers by clicking this invite button, and you type in their name or email. With my school account, my system will only let me invite people who are in the same system with me. So you may encounter that with a school-based account through Google. So if it's telling you, oh, you can't invite this person, that may be why. With a personal account, you should be able to invite anybody you want, unless that school has them blocked coming the other way as well. So keep that in mind if you're getting an error message. To invite your students, you don't have to click and manually invite them like the teachers. You can send them a code. And you see this on the People tab, invite students or give them the class code, and here it is. So mine for this class is shown here. There is another way to get to this code, and that's under the little settings gear here. So if you go to the settings gear, you see it says class code again, and I have a drop down arrow. And on that, I can display it, and I can put it really large on my screen so that my kids in my class can see it easily. They will go to their device, whether that be a Chromebook or a tablet or even a phone with a classroom app, and they'll join a class similar to the way that you added a class back on that plus button. They'll go to here, they'll join class, and then we'll ask them for the code, and they will put that code in. There is a way to add them manually. It takes a lot longer, but a time that I might use that is when I have a new student in the middle of the year who's been added to my class, and I want them in right then, but we're working on something, or I want to add them in, in the afternoon or during my planning period. When I see the email come through with their name, I can just go ahead and send them an invitation. With the invitation, when they're on this screen here with their classes, then they will see that they have an invite and they can accept that. This is where your class shows up with each of the tiles for all of the classes that you have created, and it's under Classes on the menu to the left. When I click Classes, I get this screen, or I can click back into my class and I can see the class that I have created. The first thing that you would want to do when you have created a class here is just probably to create an announcement welcoming people to your class. So you'll go down to the plus, the bottom, and hit Create Announcement. And you can say, welcome to our class. From this screen, you can add a link if you had a link to a video that you wanted people to watch when they started the class. You could add a Google Doc of maybe your syllabus. You could add a link to YouTube. You could add a link here. I'm sorry, this is attachment. You can add a document attached. You can add a Google Drive link. You can add a YouTube video. You could add a link to an additional website that you wanted them to check. And then you would hit post, and that would show up on your screen at that moment for everyone to see that was already in your class. There are also some other options from the drop-down box here. You could hit schedule. That will pull up a date and a time in the future that you want to schedule that announcement. So maybe you don't want it to go out until tomorrow morning, then you would go ahead and schedule that for September the 5th, maybe at 8 a.m., and it would go out tomorrow morning instead of right now. You can also just save it for later because maybe you're not finished. Maybe you do want to add a YouTube video, but you don't have time to look for it right that minute, but you want to remember to send out an announcement. So you can just save your draft, and it will show up under saved announcements here. When you get ready, you click back on it. We'll go ahead and post that. It gives you a warning. Students will see this post in their streams immediately, and that's okay. You just go ahead and hit post, and there it is. Another thing that you might want to check out initially with your settings is whether you want your students to be able to post and comment. You have 3 options here. Only teachers can post or comment. Students can only comment, or students can post and comment. So depending on the level of responsibility and access you want to give your students to the class, you would want to change those perhaps. You can also from this screen send Guardian summaries, and you can see an example of those by clicking here. But when you turn on Guardian summaries, then once a week the guardians of your students are going to get a summary of what is happening in your class. So when I look at some of my other classes that already have people in them, if they have Guardian emails listed here on the Invite Guardian, then when it's the end of the week, the Google Classroom will automatically send a link to those Guardians, which will tell them the assignments that were posted, whether the student has any overdue work or not. So that's just a quick overview of how to set up a Google Classroom. Obviously, you can change your theme, you can change your photo, you can change your color scheme by selecting theme. Play around with it a little bit, create a class, try it out on your kids, your own children at home to get a little practice if you don't feel comfortable in the classroom yet. And stay tuned for more videos where we'll talk about other features of Google Classroom.